Welcome to this training course, which brought to you by CA Management Services. We're going to go through and show you different features of Triumph. Something you will notice down the bottom is there's a table of contents. The course is anywhere between 1 and 2 hours long if you go through the whole course, but if you actually look at the table of contents, we've broken it into distinct sections, which allows you to go in and pick a section and just do a section and then come back to it later. Also means that if you have got staff who need to learn particular functions, you can grab them to just go through that particular section. As you are going through though, we do try and cover off on a few exercises and things like that, but it is designed that you can pick and choose the areas that you want to come in and use. Hopefully you enjoy the course. Look forward to getting some feedback. Thank you. The objective of this training course is just to allow you to go through and learn some of the features and to practice some of the skills that you'll get by using Triumph Accounting. When you're going through, you'll see we covered different parts of the modules, and there are sections in there where we will actually give you exercises. So it is good if you open up the demonstration company and go through and try some of the exercises while you're doing it. Good luck. Hopefully you'll enjoy the course. In this slide here, I'm not going to actually read you the slide, and it's standard through the course. You'll get different slides coming up. I'm not going to actually talk to you about every one of them. It's really aimed for you to stop and have a read, have a think about what it means, and then you'll basically be able to click on to the next place where you'll be listening to a video. Thank you.
To get a quick overview of the debtors, the first thing we need to do is have a look at the debtors, and you'll see in the debtors module there's different components. There's a transaction entry. If we go have a look at that, it gives you an idea of there's different types of invoicing can be done, credit notes, receiving of entries, journals. You can do retentions, and you can do allocations between account balances. File maintenance lets you look at all the maintenance areas. Listings will let you look at the setups and the static information that's set up on a debtor. Reports is all of the generic information where you do calculations like age trial balances, debtor sales statistics reports. Special processing, any extra items like running statements, running end of month, doing mail merges, letting you change debtors codes. User options give you the ability to do your own specific reports using Crystal or Excel or any other tool that suits your business reporting needs. You have sub-modules being sales analysis, that allows you to analyse sales by customer, sales rep, products, etc. Sales orders allowing you to take back orders and do deliveries and picking slips, etc. So if we're going to go and have a look at a debtor, let's go into a debtor's account and see the details of what really happened on a debtor. The first thing we have on a debtor is we pull up the debtor account with a search inquiry, pull it up, and we can then look at their name. You'll see we can see their street address, postal address, website, telephone number. You'll note with the blue bit here that you can actually click on that and drill to the guy's website, or if you've got a VoIP phone, you can connect straight up to their phone. Little buttons here. If you wish to drill onto those, you can drill in and actually get Google Maps of their street address or their postal address. Going through the rest of the system. Contacts, there's many different contacts you like. Some quite neat things here. You can actually link them up and call people directly through Skype or have multiple email addresses. You can mail merge directly from the person's account. So if you're trying to collect credit terms or credit application, to easily have that letter set up through the system. Operationally, a few things that are in the system. You can put people on stop credit. You can always demand that there's an order number filled in when getting any invoices or orders from different types of discounts and pricing available. Credit limits, Australian business numbers. What's the price list you want to have the customer on? The different types of stock items that they're selling or invoicing as defaults. Different discounts are available. You can set up the groupings, and you've got debtor groups to give you different groups of debtors on a customer, sales reps, sales areas, and various other information for defaulting of processing. Business forms allows you to print, fax, email. So in this case here, every time there's a tax invoice done, they'll get 2 emails out to 2 different people and a printed copy. Corporate structure gives you the ability to have parent-children setups, and that sort of allows you, the parent-children setups allows you to then report them and group them together. Banking, you can default client standard bank accounts, standard credit card numbers. Sales order entry if you're doing sales. How do you normally ship to them with their couriers? Do they take back orders? Do they take part deliveries? If you're running the web module, is this client web enabled? What's their password so it's fully integrated to your websites? You've got document management, so you can track all the documents that relate to this customer and link them and relink them, print them. If we have a look at the buttons down the bottom, we can look up all the outstanding sales orders on a client, see what's happening. We can look at notes and have notes that alert us to certain functions, or general notes to follow up, or even system notes. If we have a look at the figure inquiry, system happily then tells us what have we sold to them for the period, the year, for last year, last invoices, receipts. You can see outstanding balances, seeing what's currently due, or total due and current breakdown, what's in future months. If you're running retention, you keep retentions. Something that is interesting in the system is there's lots of setup functions, so you can turn on and off things. So some of the screens we're seeing here will turn off if you turn those features off, or turn others on. If I drill in and have a look at transactions, we can look at the transactions on a customer. So seeing the outstanding invoices at the moment has a concept of history as the old paid invoices, current outstanding invoices, and next month's invoices, so allowing for cut-offs between accounting periods. So as we're looking at an invoice, we can see an original invoice here. It was originally worth $9,500, still owing $3,000. If I look at the applied transaction button, it gives me the details of the credit note and a receipt against it. And if we've made a mistake, we can unapply those. We're looking at this, we can reprint an invoice, print it, fax it, email it. We can change the date things are due to be paid. We can drill down in things and view the lines. We can then also drill down and do event inquiries and see the general ledger entries that have gone through and who did them and when they did them. Right, so let's come out of that data now. All of that information feeds through and is then updating into your reports, as we said earlier, the reports, etc. I won't go too much further into those, except maybe give you an age trial balance, just have a bit of a quick look at what it looks like. So you can get an age trial balance detailing your account. So now we're looking at a debtor's maintenance code. Going into the debtor, first thing to look up a debtor's code, you need to do that by clicking on the 3 dots, by going to the lookup here, or by pressing the F4 key. If you hover over that, it'll then give you the option to have a lookup. Looking at the lookup, if I click on the code, it'll actually resort it into up and down order. Same with alternate code, same with group, postcode, currency, parent-children groups. If you're looking for someone you don't know their code, and I click in the name and just type in part of someone's name, in this case I only know it's got the word "and" in it, and it will assign any area that has the word "and" in the person's name. I'll select him. While I'm looking at this person, we'll just run through some of the information here. First thing we've got is a street address. If we want to have the same postal address or a different postal address, we can click on this and it'll default the postal address down, or you can change that. While looking at all addresses, the 3 dots here will let you see the Australian postcode lookup, or there is a maintenance area where you can enter your own postcodes in. if I wanted to get more information on this person's address, if I click on the icon here, it will actually go and load up Google Help for me, or Google Maps, so I can actually see that and see street addresses, etc. I'll just close out of there. Coming across onto the website. If I double click on the website or click on the blue highlighted component, it'll take me to the person's website. Same thing with phone numbers, where I can go to the phone number. If I click on the telephone here, it will, and if you're running a VoIP system, it will actually make a phone call for you. To set that up, you do need to go through the maintenance area to connect to a VoIP system, and let you do that in one of the other training sessions. Moving to the next tab, let's update that data. We can have as many contacts as we like on a debtor's account. Seeing a debtor's account here at the moment, you can then keep tracks of work, home, fax, mobile, other contact number, multiple email addresses, Skype handles, and you can chat with people and set other account information as well. Maybe their Twitter account or their Facebook account. If I add a new person, I can easily add a new person here. When we add a new person, we can say whether they are, what's their name, contact details, suffixes, and you can fill in the balance of their information. I won't save any more, I'll just save that and OK out of here. Why I've done that is you can see on here we now have the two contacts, and we can nominate that John is the the main contact for accounts, while Patricia is the main contact for sales. What this means is in your transactional area, it'll default to this for all emailing type transactions and contact information, and comes in handy later on when we're doing our business forms. While we are in here, we can link and unlink the same contact to multiple debtor accounts or creditor accounts, and we can add, edit and change ones. Something that's not used a lot but could be used a lot more is in the mail merge. If we click the mail merge, the system will mail merge to Word for Windows and will ask you to set up a template. There is detailed help in the help, or if you go to the Triumph website and go to support documents, you'll find there is actually a specific document taking you through Triumph Word Merge Master Template, so you can set up and know what all the fields are needed in a Word document. I won't cover this in that section. Moving along to the next bit, operationally, we can now put people on stop credit. When we put someone on stop credit, we can still take orders from them, but we can't actually do any deliveries or invoices or picking slips. What will happen though is when money is received through your accounts receivable area or your payments area, it will actually ask the operator to come up and take people off stop credit automatically. We can require that there's always an order number on an account. As you're taking an order, do you need to receive an order number? Very good when you're running a corporate client, because most corporate clients have raised purchase orders. Discounts on list is really allowing you to calculate on what basis do your promotional discounts get calculated. We have seen some occasions where clients will get discounts back against their original prices, even if they've already had discounts. So it's not discounted on a discounted price, it's discounted on their original quoted price. I won't leave that on. We can choose to have clients running as either open item or balance forward, and you can swap between them at any time you like. Behind the scenes, the system all runs an open item, but will display in balance forward. So should you have a balance forward client that you want to swap back to open item, you change that, press F2 and the client changes over. Setting up credit limits, very simple. ABN numbers, so if you're setting up tax code numbers. Special status, this allows you to set up for 3 different types of accounts. Normal account, which is a normal situation. You have a temporary account where you've got a debtors account that you only want to be on there for a short amount of time, and then when their account's paid off, you want the system to close the account so it's not there. Normally we see this in trading accounts where people are buying things for their home use, maybe a kitchen setup, something of that nature. So the client has to have an account while you build the equipment, but once that's built and supplied, then they don't need an account, and then you can flag accounts to be deleted. I'll leave that one as it is. You can nominate up to 6 prices. So you've got prices on an account, so 6 different prices, and you can choose which price the person uses. Over and above this pricing, there is also some discount structures and levels, and there is a special pricing module which allows you to set up special prices per person. If you want to learn more about that one, there is a session on special pricing. When you're setting up your standard default lines for processing and making life easy, if you're always delivering stock lines, you can set it up to stock, but if you were always doing job lines for this customer, you could set it to big job line, just saving keystrokes in the data entry. Aging types allows the system to have multiple aging types, really, so you can run monthly creditors, weekly creditors, fortnightly. You can choose how you set that up. And there is an area and a section that talks about how to set that up. Credit terms, so we can set up different credit terms. Are they on 7-day terms, 30-day terms, COD terms? And there is an area to set that up, which is in another training area. You can group people into different debtor groups. An example of that's normal customers, agents, resellers, wholesalers, so you can see the different types of customers you've got, which types of sales reps you've got, what types of different sales areas. What's good is these names can actually be set, so when we look at the settings there, you'll see how you can reset these names to give different information. An ability to have multiple currency accounts, so a debtor's account can be set to any currency. For most clients, you'll set tax codes is left blank because it will already default to being GST, but should you have an account that needs to be set to a particular GST code, maybe an exporter, you can set them up as going as an export account, so then they won't get GST calculated. Transfer to allows you to nominate an account that's going to be merged with another account at month-end processing. So normally lets you transfer it out of, in this case, Johnny Applecross into another account. Some default information where you're processing to a regular revenue account. Another keystroke saving issue lets you save it. I've turned on the ability to have general ledger control accounts. This is an example of some of the things that can be turned on and off depending on how easily you want to make the system running. So in this case, I have turned on GL control account, so I could have a different trade debtors control account in my general ledger. Normally, if you leave it blank, it will go to the default. Continuing on from the previous video that we were doing, we got down to doing general ledger posting tables, and this is normally left blank unless you want to set it up that for this particular debtor, they always want to go to a particular sales categories. In a later session under General Ledger, we'll explain how General Ledger postings work. In most cases, the GL posting is driven by the inventory or the stock item you're selling, but it is there to allow you to override it should you want to do that. We then go on to the fourth tab being business forms. In business forms, we can set up in here that people can be sending to printing, faxing, email. Example might be tax invoice, that I can add a tax invoice. In this case, I want to email it to a particular contact. If I add another one and just click it to email, what it will do there is look back at the contacts and decide which of the particular transactions, so in this case it's an invoice, it would be going to the account's default person, and I can then add another one because I wanted to print a document. You'll notice here, if we're looking at the system, all the different types of transactions that you can produce, depending on the modules that you've got, can be defined as having different settings, so giving you a large amount of power to print things to different places. What is also available, if we click on the click and create a new contact, in here we want to click a new one, and I want an email here. Normally when you click the contacts button, it takes you to the particular customer's account or debtor's account to see their contacts. You also have the ability to go back to the system contacts and choose other contacts should you want to send copy information to a third party or to the sales rep or someone internally, so they can get a copy of transactions as well. Going to corporate, there's an ability then to start setting up parent-children accounts. So if I pull up a parent account and have a look at them, when we've set up a parent account, we've nominated that it will be dealt with in 4 different ways. So normally this means that none means nothing happens to each account. Separately means each different account is being treated individually. Combined groups all of the information on the parent's account, while chained will report each individual debtor's account or child's account separately, but give you a grand total on the parent. What happens on a child? If I look at a child of this person, yes, it's nominated as a child, and you link them back up to their parent. Lets you deal with those groups of clients you're dealing with. Going on to banking information, we can nominate in here how the client normally pays us by cheque or EFT. So if we are putting in cheque details, we can put bank and branch details. Another key saving, data entry saving area. Credit card information, same ability there should you want to keep information on file. But when someone's dealing with sales orders, does the customer accept back orders? Do they accept part deliveries? You can define that for your picking. The shipping information allows us to nominate the courier that you're using by default. Normally I put in things for less than 5 kilos, just giving me a hint of which courier I would use for different types of shipping documents. Moving along again, we can now decide this customer, we want them to be linked up to the Triumph website. So when I do this, this makes them immediately on the Triumph website, and we can set up a password and their prompt for their password. By the website being involved, it makes it very simple to integrate online and offline processes. And then in the document section, we can actually go and start to add documents. To do this, very simple. You click on the link area, go to documents, and if I find a document, I can grab these documents here. And so I want to have those 3 documents all added to my file, and we'll add them through. Once they're there, in this case they're Excel, I can open them, print them, or I can unlink them. Very good for tracking back and forth communications between clients. Talking communications, we also have a button up the top here for notes. When I click on notes, it'll come in and give me any notes, so I can actually add a new note to a customer. Have spoken to them about outstanding account, and I can then OK that, and it will actually sit on their notes file. Other things that you'll notice in here, I've been doing a general note. I can do an alert note, which will pop up a warning whenever someone goes in to do an invoice and order, or at any time the system makes changes to their account codes. It'll also record a system note. If we look down here at the inquiries, a couple of inquiries are standard inquiries. If I pick a customer that might have an outstanding order, we can see here this will list out all of the outstanding orders on a customer's got. You'll notice that this order has multiple lines, but it's actually listing out each individual line on the account. And if we tab across, we can see all the different details about each back order and price, etc. So giving you instant information on their orders that you're holding for them. If we click on figures, it will give us what have we sold to them for the period, the sales cost GP percentages for the period, the year to date and last year, the last invoice, last receipt payments, and their outstanding account balances also including future and retentions. If we drill down into your transactions, you can then see all of your outstanding transactions. If we look at the top, you've got a history of all old invoices, current outstanding ones, and any in the future. On the current invoices, gives you quite a degree of detail. The invoice number, the order number, the unique event number that tracks everything by, the date of the invoice, when's it due to be paid, the due date. If we click down here, we can actually change the due date if you're communicating with the client. It's going to be due on a different day. How much was the original invoice value? What's still outstanding? We click on the applied transaction. It'll tell us the amounts that we've received and applied against this. If we've had a situation that these have been applied against the wrong invoice, we can unapply all or unapply a particular item, which then lets us reapply them at a later stage. We can see sales references, who the sales rep was, salesperson, amounts, costs, and if we keep coming across, we can see the notes that go with there. On all of these inquiries and things like this, if you click the right mouse button, there is an ability with column order to actually choose the order that you want to work and look at things with. Other things we can do is we can reprint forms, so it will automatically reprint forms as per our settings, or I can print, preview, fax, email, or skip printing. I'll preview an invoice just so we can see one, and you'll see an invoice come there with the details and optionally with the reprinted details. So these forms are all editable through Crystal. We can view the lines that are on an invoice and see the details coming across. And last but not least is the event inquiry function, and the event inquiry function lets us go in, and I'll make that a little bit larger. We can see all the journals that have come through, the debits and credits that happen with that, and if we come down a bit further, it will then give us when it was posted, date and time, what general ledger period, who the operator was, the PC and the transaction they did it in. So a very good summary of where you're at with things. I think that will do for this section, and when you first start to set up a debtors module, the first thing you always need to do is go to System Maintenance, System Setup, Debtor Control Maintenance. The key to this is you'll see by all the little options here, there are various options you can turn on and off, and we'll just go through each one individually so you can have an idea of what it's about. First one we've got is settlement discounts. What this does is allow you to offer settlement discounts to customers or not to customers. Retentions, more used in your building type industries, but do you actually hold, does your customers hold retentions on your account? Yes or no. What's very good, and we will have a special section on this in the course, but it just allows you to record how much has been held on a retention and will be paid to you later. Do you want a parent, children, or a corporate account situation? Next thing, sales groups. Turning this on and off, and you'll see this turns off the sales group 1 or 2. What's also available in here, we can then change this name to other types of things, so we can, instead of having sales rep, we could just have sales person, something of that nature, giving you the options to change that around. I'll just put it back to rep. Do we want to have invoice costs for non-stock-based items? Something to note, whenever you click on one of these, there's a little note down the bottom in Triumph for all things, giving you a little base of what's happening. And I'll highlight this when taking you through how to do an invoice. Do we want sales alerts on an account? So if we're getting notes on a debtor's account, do we want to have those notes alerting people as they're doing transactions? Do we wish to have batch invoices turned on so we can actually process the invoice without updating the general ledger? Delivery addresses. Does the account have multiple delivery addresses? If it does have multiple delivery addresses, when we're processing an invoice, do we want to select the default first address to come up? When if we're running a balance forward account, do we want this to automatically apply credit things at the end of the month? So just streamlining some of the data processing. Multiple control accounts. Most people only run one trade debtors account, but you can actually turn that on. That way you can have multiple control accounts. It also means that you can have debtors set up to go to different general ledger posting tables by default, which overrides what's on the debtors account, on the inventory account. Applying future transactions. With being a date-based system, you can process into any future date, backwards and forwards, but if you want to lock it down so people don't do things like that, you can unapply that. I would normally advise that we always have it on, so it's date-based. Descriptions we've talked about. Statements is an ability to have multiple types of statement. The key difference is we run through them. First one at the bottom is balance forward, always gives you a balance forward transaction and then lists any new invoices. A debit credit transaction gives you a debit column and a credit column. An outstanding one only lists what's outstanding on the account, while a normal will list any invoices that were paid during the month and how they were paid. Each different customer tends to have their own choice, so normally you can print them out and show it to them. And if you're doing a parent-children transaction, you can combine all this parent-children transaction into one statement. Initially, when you set up a module, you'll normally want to nominate the end of month that you're working on. So we've got audit trails by month, and then you can nominate how much history. So you can have up to 99 months of history months on a debtors module. Finance charges, the ability, if you turn this on, that you can set up and have minimum charge, interest charges for outstanding accounts. I won't go through that in detail, but it is available. Document numbering under invoices, credit notes, receipts, journals. You can set up to have numbering with your own prefix number. So we can have an INV or IN, two-digit number and its own number, which then increments. You've also got the ability to set up entry defaults on a debtor's master code. So this just means that when you're setting up new debtors, it will come up with predefined account information so that you're not having to re-enter it in. Word of warning, if you find that you've got a debtors account, most of the time people may set this up for either being the boss's account or leave it blank, which forces people to put in the correct entry. We have entries like credit limits, what price list, the normal price list they use, and how do they normally deal with transaction entry of the discount. Do they normally do it by dollar transaction or percentage thing? Both of these are overridable, but it just sets the default for when processing. I think that will actually leave us. Finishing this section, we'll move on from there.
So here's a list of all of the different types of transactions that you can actually do. You'll see we've done videos for each different one. When you're going through, by all means, I would suggest that you stop at the end of each video and actually go on to your play system and try and do a few of the transactions yourself. Because at the end of all of the videos, we're going to give you some exercises to test you out. And what we've seen running it in practice is most people would like to have had a bit more time to play with it before they do their exercises. So the good thing is with this training video, you can just stop, go and have a play in the real system, come back to it, have another go from there. Hopefully you enjoy it.
To maintain some debtor information, you need to go to debtors, file, maintenance, and then if we're looking at debtors, there's a group of things that need to be characterised. Let's look initially at debtor group maintenance. If you click on debtor group maintenance, you'll see it's a very simple methodology of recording a code for what the debtor maintenance is and then giving it a name. The key concept of using debtor group maintenance is all about grouping your debtors into different characteristics which you can then later use in sales analysis and reporting. Save that one. that's done. If we look at a couple of others in the same area, salesperson maintenance, essentially the same characteristics. You can then put in a person's initials, or you give them a number or a sales rep number, give them their name, and there's a flag there to say whether you want to update your sales analysis reports, which is normally left to on. Save that. We close out of there, and sales area maintenance, same situation. We can set up different characteristics. It doesn't matter what it is. It's in this case I'll just go with the country. Click on save, and it saves the line. So all of these groups are very easy to set up, and they then use later in our reporting and in your sales analysis. Credit term maintenance lets you actually set up and have different terms for people. So we could actually set up and give someone 21-day terms. So you need to give it a code, a description for what it is. And I can nominate 21 days. So it can be from the end of the month, which is the end of, fairly simple description, end of month. You can do 21 days from an invoice, or if you were doing multiple aging periods, you could change it from there. I'll just do this one, 21 days from invoice, F2 for save again, close out of there. Aging periods, we can do the same thing there for aging periods and set up a reporting ability to say we want to report things on a fortnightly basis. And so it's 14 days. Oops. Just allowing you then to set those up quite easily. Back out of there. Other things are in the group maintenance, tax code, posting tables, and these need to be set up to work, but from a point of view at this stage, aren't mandatory to run the debtors module. To go and do a simple debtors transactions under debtors, transaction entry, and you'll see in here you can now do an invoice entry, a batch invoice entry, credit note entry, just the reverse of an invoice, a receipt, a journal. We can do retentions and we can do allocations. What I'll do is just go for a simple debtors entry at this stage. We come in here, first thing we need to know is the debtors code. So I can either type it in or I can use F4 or any of the search functions to pull up people's accounts. Pulling them in, you'll note there on this card it's got an alert set up, so it automatically pops up an alert for me, which I then need to accept. I can either enter the invoice number in, or if I just press enter, it will give me the next invoice number. Something to note there, as we come into a new invoice number, there is an ability to have pre-selected templates, so you can have some predefined layouts of invoices coming through. I won't cover that at this stage. The invoice number comes up by default. Sales order number, if you've got a sales order number system running, require that to be recorded. Customer's order number, allowing you to say who it was. If they've got a purchase order number, if you've got the debtor set up to automatically say they need an order number, it won't let you go past until you've recorded something. The amount of the invoice, this is an optional field used as a check total. So if you actually have already produced the invoice on a separate system, you can put in the total and make sure you're getting your data entry correct. If you haven't put it in, you can leave it to 0 and it will calculate for you. The payment due comes up. So in this case, we can see this client is on a 30-day from end of month because it's gone from 16th of March through to the 30th of April, but we can then override and change the date that this is due any stage we like. It'll bring through the client's default price lists, so we can change the price list if we wish. We can put the default discount will come through, and we can override that. Same thing with the default sales rep, sales area, and we can put in our notes. If it was a foreign currency debtor, it would put in the exchange rate. Automatically brings up delivery details, so the first delivery details, if we've got multiple delivery addresses, we can choose the delivery address, or we can come through and we can write in our extra bits and pieces if we wanted to go on the delivery details. Other information, if we've got this turned on, we've got settlement discounts turned on, so it lets us then record that there's going to be a settlement discount, percentage or amount, or if there's going to be a retention, we can set that at the same time. I won't at this stage. It lets us come in now, and we can see that we've got different types of lines, types that we can do, and I'll go through each one in its own right. So first one is I can choose a stock item. As we've seen before, we can search for things by groups, categories, and if I drag this across so I can get to the description, I can go and search on the description and put in part of a description, and it will search just for those components, easily letting me do that. What's quite powerful as well is that you can do searching on other alternate codes and information, and you can set up characteristics by hitting the right mouse code to set things in place. I won't go into that in detail, but worth you investigating some of those. What's the quantities I'm buying? The price, you'll see it's come up here with a promotion price, so I therefore must have a special price system set up. If I click on the three dots, it'll give me the other prices that are set up on this customer. And I can put in the tax amount, letting me override GSTs. If I put in the amount here, which is total, it will do a backwards calculation for you, calculating the tax and the prices on that account. To finish off an invoice, you can either enter down through it, or if you hit the append button, it'll finish that line for you. A couple of other things while we are on a stock item, you'll notice over on the side here, it gives you the picture of the stock item. What have you currently got on hand? What have you got on order from your suppliers? What have you got back order for other customers? And what's available for sale today? And if you click on the extended description, it'll give you details of what other detailed description you've got on it. So not just the simple invoicing description, more information again. While we are in a transaction, a couple of buttons that are worth looking at is zoom button. If I need to go to that debtor, that stock account, I can hit zoom and it will take me straight through to that stock account. Won't go into detail on that, but I can now click back on the debtor's invoice and carry on doing our work. I can carry on now and do a charge line. A charge line lets me do things like freight, couriers, so very simple. What's a charge line? And you'll see the transaction lines are exactly the same. What is extra on charge line? We've turned on that we want to keep costing, because freight charge, we don't know what it is. We can add the cost to get our GPs correct. We can put in description lines, and I've put in multiple description lines. You'll see by my typing, I'm a very good typist. We can then do a non-stock line. A non-stock line lets me pull up a non-stock item. Same thing, same data entries we've had before, with discount prices, and I can then put in the cost of this item at the same time. We can do a job line. As I pull up a job line, it'll let me invoice to that job. It tells me this job's not tied to a normal debtor, and same amount here. I'm not going to go in detail. I will do if you go to the job costing section, you'll see there'll be a special training section on how to invoice jobs, because we need to be recording details of WIPs and other inquiry information about our actual jobs. I'm just sufficient to say we can invoice it to multiple accounts WIP, and last but not least is we can do general ledger line, so letting me do a general ledger line to any account, putting it through, what's the price, incorrect tax, and what's the cost that we want relating to this thing. And then if I was about to hit OK, but before I hit OK, we just have a look at a couple of things. You have an ability on a significant number of transactions to actually import from a PDA or a CSV file for these transactions. If I hit OK, the system will then go and do whatever we've set as our default for our invoices. I won't accept the defaults, which in this case is printing and emailing to 2 different people. I'm just going to preview the invoice, and you'll see I've now been able to produce the invoice with all the detail that we put through, the grand total, and I will close out of that. And we'll leave the invoicing at that. So in our previous video we went through doing an invoice. Now we'll have a look at a couple of other things in here. So a batch invoice is really the same as it. I'll go in there briefly. This is exactly the same as doing a normal invoice. The difference being here that you actually set up an invoice so it can be processed later, it can be held on hold, or it's set up as a template. And you'll see in a little while if we go through special processing that you can see how to process an invoice. The actual data entry of an invoice is exactly the same. The only difference is the invoice isn't processed until you ask it to be processed. So I'll cancel out of there. A credit note entry is, we'll go in there briefly, is exactly the same as entering an invoice again, but this time it will actually go through and put it in reverse. Couple of things to note here. There is a credit reason. I will just bring up an invoice to show you a couple of extra features that do apply in creditors' invoices. If I skip through all of this and go charge too much and down onto the lines, there's something that people don't always appreciate. I can skip between lines by clicking, but I can also go Control 1, Control 2 and jump between fields. The most common occurrence with a credit note is the client has been overcharged for a transaction. I'll put in a stock item now, and the challenge is where if I just do a normal line, I can put that through quite happily, putting in the price discount. If I've got an overcharge for that same item, the challenge normally is that I have to do that. I have to bring the product stock into the system and then take it back out in most other accounting systems. In Triumph, you can actually put a quantity 0 in, and I'll leave that as damaged goods for the moment, and say I want to adjust the price by $3. So in this case, it will give a $3.30 discount to the person, but won't actually adjust their quantities movement. So just making it very easy to maintain without having to muck around with stock in and out. I'll look at one of these other stock transactions just to bring up another issue. When I am doing stock, there is a concept of having damaged goods. So if a client is bringing goods back to you, are they going back into stock? Because you can still resell them, or if they are damaged, it won't go back into stock, it will go into a specific damaged goods account. If this is goods that are going to be claimed back against your supplier, it'll sit in that damaged goods account for you to then reconcile and make claims against their account. I won't process, actually I will process that credit note just so you can see the last bit of it. I won't print it. It will then ask you to apply this credit note. You don't have to apply credit notes, but if I do, it will then bring it in and give me all the outstanding invoices, and I can then choose to allocate this invoice against it, either by selecting the particular line and putting in the amount myself, saying it's $43.30, or I can pick an invoice and hit auto apply and it'll bring it through for me. processing that there. Closing out of there now, and I think I'll do. So carrying on doing more receipting or more debtor transactions, we're going to look at the debtor receipt now. First thing you need to do is actually bring in the debtor's account code. You'll note there's a note on the file which I could look up if I wanted to by zooming into the debtor. I won't at this stage. The system automatically gives us the next receipt number, or if I have the receipt number I can record it. What I can do here is put through the amount of money I've actually received, and as I'm receiving I put through the description if I want to have what it is. When we're getting it, it'll then ask us whether it's cash, cheque, credit card or EFT. Something to note with this is if it's an EFT, it'll go straight through into our bank account. If it's cash, cheque or credit card, it will go into the banking system and require you to do a bank deposit slip. If you need to learn more about that, go to the general ledger training area. We'll do an EFT for this transaction. Ask us which bank we're going to bank it to, so we can actually have multiple bank accounts to bank to, and we'll put through against the details of the client's details. We'll put through that we're going to have a $10 settlement discount. You'll see when we're doing a $10 discount, you'll then nominate what's the settlement discount going against the GST that's applicable to it. Normally at that stage you can hit OK and process it, which I'll do, and at that stage the money has actually gone through. You don't need to always apply the receipt. We will apply it in this case so we can see the application, and what happens is $100 cash comes through and the amount of the settlement discount. I'm going to just hit the auto apply and you'll see what's happened. It applies to the top one that I was on and the rest of the balance. Okay, and I can optionally print a receipt if I wish to. While I'm in a receipt, if you make a mistake and you need to do it in reverse, it's very easy. You can just put through a minus $100 and it'll actually come up and ask a question here saying, is it a correction? If you leave it as a correcting entry, it'll go exactly in reverse as a normal one. If you take the correction off, you'll see down here, it actually will treat it as a payment to the debtor. So being slightly different in the fact that if we owed money to this debtor, we could record this cheque going out. I'm not going to process it, I just wanted to highlight that as a point. If we come out of receipting now, we'll have a look at the next transaction that we can do, is a debtor's journal. There isn't much requirement to do debtor's journal, normally done more when you're doing take-ups. But if we have a look at what it does, it lets us put through the date of the transaction. It'll automatically give us a journal number. We can do it in multi-currencies if we're doing it for multi-currencies. And you'll notice as we're doing a journal, we can do a journal between the debtor to a creditor. So if you are doing an offset between debtors and creditors, it makes it easy. Or if you're passing transactions between, you've posted to the wrong debtor, you can move from debtor to debtor, or you can go to the general ledger. For this one, I will pick a debtor and make an adjustment for $200. One of the tricks to actually understanding how to do this with debits and credits, which confuses lots of people, is if you're in the debtor's journal, it's always a positive. We'll be adding to the debtor's account. Or if I put another debtor in and make him a minus 50, that will be reducing his account by $50. And then if I go to a general ledger account, I can then just take the balancing figure, which is the minus 150, and that will actually balance it all out to zero, so happily knowing that it's posted the correct way. And I can hit OK and I can apply that journal. I'm not going to apply it unless we've seen an application. You'll see that down the bottom here there is also the transaction balance allocation. To pull this up, this is the same screen that we've been getting each time, which allows us to actually pick up transactions and select a credit and allocate that credit against a transaction. So I come down to here and auto apply it, we'll just marry it up. What I skipped over there for a moment is a retention entry. Not a lot of people have retention entries, and the normal processing of creating a retention You could do it while you're doing the debtor's invoice, but should you find that you've done an invoice and you haven't put a retention on it, you can go back to an invoice that's previously been done and come down and put in a retention amount that goes with it and process it. Or you can pull up a retention that was already in existence and take the retention off. It lets you do plus and minus retentions. I'll leave you with that one to experiment a bit more. I think that's completed transactions. So after you've been maintaining anything under listings, it gives you the ability to actually produce a series of listings. So if you've been through the other maintenance things, you'll see any of the listings that you've done, you can actually get a listing. So if we went to purchase officer, you can come in here and I can preview that, and we can see where previously we'd set a Bill Smith in. It'll actually give us a listing of that. So if we do any report, you can then decide to put it out to printer, or if you click on the export button, it will give you a whole raft of different areas and things that you can put it out to PDF, Crystal, Word, Excel, and different formats. And you can then send it to the file, or you can actually have it go straight to the application, or you can send it out into an email format, which is under Mappy. A couple of things that are quite handy to use while you are doing them there. If you actually click on this search text, you could actually put in any part of the description and go find next, and it will find, I'll move that on, bill for me. So that's good for any report where you're looking for a particular number or particular reference. And doesn't matter how big the report it is to search it. It will come out of that simple report, and you can go to, if you go to the accredited account listings, it gives you a few more varieties. You can get one that's giving you the full detail of all details you put in, a summary one, or just with the addresses. And then you can group it by certain categories, and you can do certain selections on it. If I just do a detail one, so you have a quick summary of what's there, it'll give us each creditor's account. And same thing if I went under search and put in, let's go with the number 14 and go find next. It'll find the first 14, I can find the next one after that, so it goes through the whole report. So from a listing point of view, nice and easy to work with. The other reports that we get are then more, as a listing is just giving us details of master files, but the reports themselves will actually give us transactions and details. So if we come into here, now you will see there's a whole raft of reports. First one's fairly simple, it's the creditor trial balance. The key thing with all the reports is the different options you've got. So I can actually choose to do all periods. So we had a look at an aging period, we'd be getting all our weekly and monthly people. Or if I choose to just do a single period, it would just do my monthly creditors. I can put in the date, so it lets me backdate an age trial balance back to last month or the month before, and we can then choose to do reports with transactions or with drill downs. It would be worth doing the exercise yourself of just trying a few of these reports to see what the differences are. I'll do one with a drill down. I'll include a contract, I'll include the last payment, I'll include the credit limit, I'll include a graph. I won't do the foreign currency. I will group it by the creditor group, and I can then do exceptions of people who have got outstanding balances more than 120 days, or I look at selections. I can do a range for certain characteristics. I preview that, gives me that report. A couple of things you will note, if I've actually got in blue, I could actually click on this and make it ring via VoIP phone, or I could send them an email address, or I can click on sit them there and actually give me a list of their outstanding invoices that we're talking about. What's quite handy with that is if I wanted to make notes on a person who I went back to a creditor's account, you can actually pull up a creditor's account and keep notes on a person's account, and actually put alerts so that you can give people warnings about certain things. This account needs to be paid before we can pick up new goods, etc. Or we can just have general notes of our discussions about the account, or what excuses we've given them for not paying this week. Other reports, we've looked at a trial balance. Cash required report really uses the due date that's on an invoice versus under a trial balance it's using the invoice date. And if we run this report, it'll actually give us what do we, based on our due dates, this is how much we're going to be due to pay next month, this is what we're currently due. We've also got an ability to have an overdue breakdown. So an overdue breakdown gives us a list that these accounts here are 120 days overdue to what we should have paid them. So this, maybe we should be paying some of this guy's account. I expect maybe some of this is on hold or something of that nature. We can get a clearly on hold transactions, include contacts, the same thing with exceptions, same with things with selections. I'm not going to try all of these, but you can see if I go in here I can do a range from a certain group to a certain group. That way you could pick out and run the report just for that category. Statistics, nice report, gives me a quick overview of what have I bought for the period this year, last year per supplier. Period transaction registers, and if I go in here, there's actually a few transactions in the creditor transaction. List of all my purchases, payments, journals, retentions, any gain or losses, any withholding tax. Something that confuses some people with this financial period, if I actually put a range in, the dates that come up here are only month-end dates. It isn't a date-to-date because each month-end is grouped together in a category. If I want to select things by dates, I would go in and do it by the transaction date. What we should just note as well is also the ability with audit trails to look back at the physical date the transaction was entered, not what was just dated on the transaction, and who physically entered it. And you'll see there's another range and characteristics that you can look up, and the invoice numbers, etc. Worthwhile having a bit of an experiment through some of these. Unallocated credits or debits, any one where we've got balances that we've paid the money but we haven't, or had credit notes but we haven't yet matched against an invoice, and a credit transaction report. It gives us, if I pick a person here, Mr. Sitman again, you'll see it's giving me all of their invoices, even though some of them may have been previously allocated. There's no allocation details in there. It just gives me, in this case, a list of every invoice and every payment that he's had. So it sounds similar to an age trial balance, but age trial balance only gives you what's currently outstanding. This gives you a list of their history. People in debit, so do we owe them money, something that's not quite common. A list of notes. So if we put notes in here, we can get a report out of those notes, and we can actually select and choose that by a certain criteria. And tax register gives us a list of all of our purchases, and if I look at this, it'll give me, here are all the purchases I've had for the month, the amount, and then breaks them into the different tax codes. And foreign currency gain or loss, I'll quick look at that. This one actually gives us the ability to say, well, what transactions we've had and what gains and losses we've had on each transaction. I think that covers all the standard reporting. Now just having a look at a few of the other options that we really haven't had a look at just over as we've been doing transactions. A couple of things in file maintenance that may be worth just having a re-look at. Charge item maintenance. This allows us to set up extra charges on invoices, things like freight, courier, how much. Is it something we want to allow people to discount default costings and post into the general ledgers and what tax codes? So really just allowing us to do that freight and charges. Very simple setup. We go to extra maintenance options. We can, the system will all normally come configured with all your GST codes, but you can actually set up extra GST codes, and we go to here, we can actually do complex GST codes where we're doing GST on GST, and it's essential that you do set up in here what the general ledger posting codes are going to go with every GST code. Coming back out of there, you've also got the ability to set up the foreign currencies and edit them from there. So just putting in what is the currency and what's the rate as and when you require them, and the ability to access and edit your posting tables. I'm not going to go through in detail with how a posting table works. It's more detailed in the inventory area, but suffice to say, it's really telling us what our preferences are for where things will get posted to sales, for purchasing and opening and closing stock, and where discounts are catered for. Coming back out of there, I think we've covered all of those ones. We'll now have a look at special processing. So in special processing, you have an ability to reprint an invoice, which is the same as doing it for the debtors maintenance area. Where we set up batch invoicing previously, we can now go through here and choose to select the batch for processing and print audit trails and actually go through and proceed. And that will actually treat batches if it's been posted. I won't do that at the moment. You can do merge letters. So where previously we could do merge letters individually on a debtor, we can now do a group merge document, picking up a template and sending that template, and we're previewing it, or we can email it out to a client. So you can do bulk emailing to your debtors. And I haven't got a template, but we can set up a template to do that. Statement production is another printing area, and based on what you set up in your settings, it will print the statement run that you've done in the format you want. You can choose to do it for all balances, no zero balances, or ones with transactions and order. Main characteristic of doing this, if I go through all of these options and just ignore the printing for a moment, is at the end of the statement run, there is a key function here that you need to flag debtors as being paid. Concept being that if you're doing the normal invoicing, it will print all of the paid invoices from last month that have got a zero balance, and after a zero balance invoice has been paid, it ticks it to say that it doesn't need to be printed again. So if you don't do this, the same data will keep coming up on your statements. A couple of other things, debtors integrity check, just in case you have hardware problems or system crashes, it will actually go through and check the integrity of your data. And there's a couple of different options depending on how far you want to go in depth, so you can fix and clean up information. We will cover some of this integrity separately as well. Deleting flag debtors. So as we may not have discussed it, but as you're actually putting a debtor, you can flag them for deletion, and then if they need to be deleted, you can come through and choose to flag from different modules functions that want them to be deleted. And we have an ability to change debtor codes. So this is a macro in itself to actually let you do that. We will run a session on that across all modules. And then you have end of period processing, which lets you do an end of period process, and you can say, yes, I'll do that for debtors, and it will run it per month. Or you could do debtors and creditors at the same time, or pick whichever module you wanted to do. I think we've now cut. The only things we haven't covered in debtors is you have got an ability to have user option reporting, and you can have any reporting you like, and then there are sub-modules. The sub-modules will be dealt with in their own processing section.
So what we've included here is a couple of links to different websites where you can actually get a whole heap of useful documents that may or may not relate to the training course you've just been doing, but we've gradually been accumulating different notes and shortcuts that can come in handy. So feel free to go and have a look.
So now we're in creditors, and you're starting to actually want to raise purchase orders. So Purchase orders is always a sub-module of creditors. We go into here and have a look. It essentially has the same memory structure you'd see in all other modules. But if we go into a purchase order and we'll just do a simple purchase order, we have a look at orders and we can do a general order, a quote. So general order is a repetitive order, quote's a quote for an order. I'm going to do a very simple order. Gives it an order number. You can pull up a creditor, choose who you want to order things from, filling in all the details of where you want it delivered to, lets you come in and you can say, look, I want to order a stock line, a general ledger line, job line, stock and job, disbursement or description. I'll just do a very simple stock line for the moment. If I'm ordering these stock lines, yes, not from this supplier, how many do I want to order, the price, when do I want it delivered, off it goes. Or I can do a general ledger line, similar sort of thing, what GL accounts for, and each and the price. They're really simple to process that. Whack through the purchase order and you can look at the purchase order on screen to see what it is, or you can fax and email it out to someone. Once you've got the purchase order, the system allows you to either receive them in and then receive the invoicing separately, or you can do it all in one combined document. It lets you then produce reports of what's outstanding for purchase orders, what's outstanding for items, notification of what's been delivered. Key components of this from an accounting point of view, it does actually then deal with all of your as you're doing your goods receipting, it does bring them in as cruising into your liability account, and then when you actually receive your invoice it takes it out of the liability account and puts it into the creditors account itself. So just letting you track through how much is there, and if we're looking at an order, on any order you can then look up and see the details of any deliveries and instructions, etc. that have come through, for making it nice and simple to track and know what liability you've got left in your business. If you want more details, carry on through the training course.
Hopefully at this stage you're sick of listening to my voice, which is good, but you've also learnt some of these skills along the way. And this is the last slide, so well done, congratulations, you've now completed the course.